generations. So this has sort of been ad nauseum in the news actually over the past few weeks, right? There are talks of 50-year mortgages. Last week, a lot of outlets, big outlets, were posting that the first-time home buyer age, the median, has, for the first time ever, hit 40. And the typical home buyer age overall is now 60. So that used to be in the 20s just a few decades ago, and it doesn't seem like it's getting any better, right? So there are a couple of different areas of problems. It's not just one problem. It's not just political or economic. He touched on this a little bit as well. But like personally, I break it down into 3 categories. So yeah, the first one, in my opinion, is sort of like macroeconomic. It's just inflation. As long as we have our national debt curve sort of up and to the right exponentially, I don't really see this solving itself in the long term, but that's not something that we are going to, we're not going to be able to fix this. We're not going to attempt to fix it. We're going to focus on what we can. Second category, I would say, is sort of political and sort of public sentiment related, and we may be able to play some role there, but not as much as the third, which would be the product, which I'll get into in a second. Over the past few years, though, on sort of like the political side of things, it was interesting for me to learn how aggressive people are when it comes to trying anything different in the construction space or in zoning or whatever. We've gone through some hearings and whatnot, and I realized that was a much bigger challenge than I had initially anticipated. So anytime you introduce something sort of new and unique, there are people everywhere who are sort of violently opposed to it. And so I think it's a combination of, these macroeconomic factors, zoning, permitting, what you're allowed to build. A lot of people, and I understand like arguments on all sides, but a lot of people are very against like more density. And ironically, a lot of people are very against tiny homes. And as we had just discussed, you can go to the next slide. I put this example up here because it was not so uncommon. Go ahead.
Zach, sorry to interrupt, but should that curve be adjusted for the average age of the U.S. population? Because that has gone up.
Yeah, that could also play a role, certainly. Has it gone up so significantly, though? I believe that with immigration, we're sort of just teetering along at the 2.1 like replacement rate, but more or less. I mean, there's some truth to that. But in this example, again, you guys a lot of you talked about growing up in much smaller homes, and these are great, at least starter homes. These are great for young couples, young families. Someone mentioned having 6 kids in one of these homes and it being too small. But as a starter home, this was not uncommon to see. Ironically, this was actually pretty much illegal in Wake County to build like 10 years ago. So my first house, I attempted to build because I had a company, we did app development, and I didn't have 2 years of income. I was also driving for Uber and doing a bunch of things. So I couldn't qualify for a mortgage. I had no credit, but I sort of saw a lot of costs rising very rapidly, like healthcare and everything, and I wanted to get into the housing game. And so I ended up buying a plot of land that had, it was sort of like in a trailer park. It had an old trailer that wasn't livable, and bought it for very, very cheap, and decided, well, I'm just going to build my own house like in cash. And so designed this little house. It was very close to the house, actually the house size that our standard product is, which is around like 500, 550 square feet. And I took it into Wake County, and they literally laughed at me because they were just like, what is this? You can't build this. Like, there are all these minimum size requirements on kitchens, bathrooms, rooms, entryways, stairs, and all of these things that we've actually made like a lot of progress in getting more flexible on those, especially with like ADU laws and stuff, which we'll talk about. But now, of course, we've built multiple of these in Wake County, in Raleigh, and a few different locations. But at the time it wasn't legal, so we had to blow up our design to about 900 square feet. It cost, maybe not twice as much, but significantly more. And so I drove Uber every day for a year, and we slowly built it. It was like a horrible first experience because I had no idea what I was doing. I had no background in construction, actually. It's my first project. And so again, this is not, it's becoming more allowable to build, but then you also have these sort of financial incentives with sort of how our appraisal process and system works. So an example, like for whatever reason, we mostly just look at square footage when we justify like the value of a home when you're doing the appraisal process. You can get some points for like granite countertops, which is maybe like a few $1,000s. So for big builders, the low-hanging fruit is to just build as big as possible. It's the same amount of permitting time. It's not really, like, it still takes like 1 or 2 days to put in flooring and carpet for like a 3,500 square foot home as compared to a small home, because the crew gets in and they get out. So you order a couple more materials, but of course, like incentives sort of drive results. So that's why most of the new construction that builders are getting into are these sort of like larger $1.5 million McMansions. And I'm not opposed to big houses at all. I think they're cool, but the financial incentives are not really there for building small homes for builders. And so even if it's allowed, unless you are really creative or you're doing something at a massive scale, it's very challenging. So we're sort of targeting that, and it is challenging, but we believe at like an extreme scale, there is a huge demand for it. There are a lot of people who want to get in starter homes, new quality starter homes, that don't have, like this home might be on the market in a couple, $250,000 or whatever. It might have lead paint though. It might not have all of these new technologies that are pretty affordable now. Certain elements of like the new technology and air conditioning, heated floors, and tech. Tech is actually very, very cheap to that point, right? So you look at the chart you're kind of talking about is like big screen TVs. The TV cost per pixel or whatever. Solar panels it's the same. It's gone down like this. But then healthcare, education, and housing have just done the complete opposite. And it's sort of a multifaceted problem, because you are dealing with government. There are incentives and taxes, and it just gets very convoluted. And yeah, should go to the next one. So more about our big crazy vision. So we are starting out building these tiny house villages, with the first one in Raleigh, North Carolina. And the idea is we'll have these all over the world. They'll be furnished, sort of high-tech units with really cool community amenities that people can rent on sort of a rental subscription. So truly flexible living is how I think about it. Flexible living, I think, is almost as important as affordable living. If you guys have ever been like in between moves or trying to build a house or whatever, that takes a lot longer. Or any number of reasons. It's nice to be able to find some relatively affordable, flexible housing. And so we furnish our units. We have an app. We have all this cool stuff we'll talk about. But the idea is you pay a rental subscription, essentially, and you can move to any of our locations at any time. From like, you can stay there 1 night, 1 month. You can stay there 3 years. Like, we just have a sort of a sliding scale on pricing. For how long you stay in a location. And then you can see what's available on our app, and you can swap locations. And so we are currently also building like a sister village in the Caribbean right now. It's on a really cool site, like completely different from Raleigh in terms of nature and whatnot. It's on a mountain. It's overlooking these beautiful Caribbean waters. And the idea is, you can move with the seasons. If you're working remote, which like our initial target market is sort of younger people who can't afford to buy a home, but can work from anywhere. And maybe they have their own business, maybe they work remote for a company in another city, and so on and so forth. We can sort of provide them this really cool platform and ecosystem that gets them started. The idea is, though, for every month or whatever that you rent one of our units, you get credits towards the down payment of your first Nomad home as we go to sell these. And so, as of right now, the eventual goal is rent, build, or buy any of our units. As of right now, you can rent them. You can also build them. So we license our plans. These are not, we'll get into this. We do use robotics and technology to build kits and stuff, which we can ship to you. But they're built with super standard materials. So you can build these anywhere. They can be permitted as homes that can be bought, with an FHA loan, so that they meet like the standards for permanent actual primary residences. But we license our plans, and then you can opt into our network, and you can add it to this broader network. We'll help bring renters and things like that. And we do have a couple of these projects being piloted, either like one-offs, ADUs, or small clusters within the triangle. So that's pretty cool. So little by little, that will grow. Eventually, we'll be, in the not-too-distant future, we'll be doing these homes for sale at affordable price points.
What kind of square footage?
So the standard model is 550 square feet, and then we have like this sort of studio model at 275. We're releasing actually larger units soon, so closer to 800 square feet. We have a couple of variations. The interesting thing is we say this all the time, and I noticed in the example of that little home from the 1950s, they put cubic feet in there. We actually, you don't get appraisal points for cubic feet, so nobody really lists it or thinks about it. But it doesn't cost a lot extra to go high, but one of like our primary design features are these signature 12-foot ceilings and floor-to-ceiling windows. So they're small, but they're basically the size of studios and one-bedrooms, with a lot more cubic feet, like 50% more cubic feet, and a lot more window coverage. Like the square footage of windows is like 10x of your typical studio, right? You usually get like one window. So yeah, they're smaller, but they are bigger actually than what most young people are paying $1,800 a month or whatever to rent. And again, what our plans are to eventually, we're continuously getting our costs down, and we're growing our units. Our eventual goal is to be able to do 2- and 3-bedroom homes for sale at less than half the median new home sales price. So.
Is this a modified Airbnb or timeshare?
Yeah, so it's sort of the inverse of a timeshare. The rental subscription. Timeshare is like you sort of own a month or whatever out of the year. On the rental side, you don't own it. You don't have any. You're just paying rent. So basically, you just pay rent. It's a rental subscription. You just have access to the entire network, and it's furnished, and it's like flexible. It's month to month. So in that sense, it's a little more like an Airbnb, because we're going to have to do things differently with leasing. Typically, if you want to find like a 6-month lease in one of these new apartment buildings, it's like twice the price. There's no furnishing, and so it's actually very challenging to find anything under 6 months, especially furnished, unless it is Airbnb. But Airbnb rates are pretty, they're very expensive for a month or a month and a half when you're paying the nightly rates. We've tested our prototype unit on Airbnb, and we made 12 grand 1 month, and like 8,500 for another. Not with just one individual person, but so those rates are exorbitantly expensive, prohibitively expensive. So yeah, just some visuals of our 2 locations, and of course you guys are always welcome to come check it out. It's off Rock Quarry. Prototype is off 401, but the village site is off Rock Quarry and Legend, right across from the amphitheater, the main amphitheater in Raleigh. It's kind of an interesting location. A little bit more about our product specifics. So as I mentioned, the big windows. We use sort of this compact design with space-saving features and like pull-out storage and things like that. Our kitchen is very compact, as you can see, but it has everything that you're used to, a full kitchen. everything that you need for for long-term living. So it's like pull-out dishwasher, that's a washer-dryer combo. You have a fridge freezer behind there, an oven microwave combo, and quite a bit of storage. So you're not downgrading, it's just smaller. I don't think it's in the photo, but we have a sliding glass wall on the other side where you can walk out either onto the grass or onto a balcony. And so those premium windows are you typically see them in multi-million-dollar homes. So just a few more examples. None of these are expensive. These are just sort of like tastefully designed items that you can get on Amazon or whatever, but they look good. It feels sort of like a hotel room, premium hotel room. I did mention tech a little bit. So the good news is you can essentially make a smart house now for like a couple $1,000s. So you could either spend $10,000 really upgrading the kitchen, where you get like maybe 15% better kitchen, but with the most premium materials. Or you could spend like, and that could cost 10 grand extra or more. Or you could spend like a few $1,000 and you have smart lighting, surround sound, heated floors, things like that. So that's what we do. And then of course there are like Nest products for smart thermostats, smart smoke detectors, and those are just getting better and better all the time and more affordable. So basically in the future, my opinion is all homes will be very smart for very low cost. The raw materials, however, are the ones that are getting, exponentially more expensive. So, and I don't really see that changing. To your point, there's not a whole lot of innovation in the space. We still stick-built homes like the same way. It's funny, I was in Prague actually. I went to like a museum and they had homes from the 1200s, and they actually had permanent building plans, and they were stick framed. Like it looked just like what we do today, So, so I think actually that could get us to our next topic, which is our partnership. So BotBuilt, they're not with us here today, but they're close friends of us. They are also a local startup. They've actually raised a lot more money than we have, and they panelize homes with robotics. So we're actually saving probably 30% on our framing costs. They do turnkey installation, or they can ship a kit if it's not like local. So we've already ordered 20 of our units through them. So we'll do that for the next phase of our village. Our licensees get access to this as well, so they'll be using these kits. And again, there's not a whole lot of innovation in the construction there. It's just they're panelizing with wood frame kits. So they're not really changing how everything is done. We do, however, have a patent filed. It takes years to get approval or not, but for a really cool, I should probably actually put it up there, but this is sort of a 10-year vision. I think the future is going to be panelized. Move everything to the assembly line. It'll probably more than half the cost of a home now is labor, but like on the sort of all the little in-between different trades that you need. And eventually I believe that'll just be completely automated, and you're basically going to be paying just raw material costs for your home. And so we're patenting this smart panel system where it comes completely finished, basically. Solar exterior, interchangeable skins on the inside, has electrical, plumbing and stuff all like pre-wired. You just kind of snap it together in a few hours is the idea. And we also have components within them that you can swap out. So you can put radiant heaters in them, or little appliances or extra storage, and it can sort of be ever-changing within your home. There's another camp of people that think like 3D printing homes is going to be the solution. I think it's cool, it looks cool, but to me, it doesn't make any financial sense. So what 3D printing a home does is you essentially you're not even really doing the frame. You get some structural element, but then you need to still put in, this is how they do it here in the US, is you do that, and then you frame the interior walls because you need to run all of your utilities and whatnot, which you're basically just doing the same thing twice. And like in my opinion, it's sort of really expensive siding because that's the one thing it replaces. You don't need to actually like add siding to a 3D printed mold. One area I do think, there's some promising potential with 3D printing are just really like oblong weird shapes. So it's very challenging to do domes and like seashell looking curves, which some people have done with homes, with wood or whatever. Maybe precast concrete is one way, but that's basically what 3D printing is doing in making. You can just upload a file and it'll just print anything. I think that's exciting, but in terms of like housing affordability as a solution, I don't think that is the solution. I do think panelizing will be the future. So just a little bit more about what we offer. So not only do we, give them cool sort of elevated homes, and then this gold rental subscription. Our members also get access to a platform. We've got a mobile app and a desktop app where they can upload their future travel plans, connect with other members. We have all of our locations. We also host meetups. I think the next slide is about that. And then we have a bunch of perks, sort of like, think like Amex Platinum membership for like living, for the sort of remote work initially. So we do have like discounted rents at co-working in Raleigh. We have, like different like apparel brand discounts, and we're just constantly adding value to our members. And you can go to the next slide there. We one of them being, we meet up once per quarter somewhere around the world. So we've been all around the world together. Most of these people are from Raleigh, but we do have a global community. And they've been a great, we started the community first because it takes a lot of time to build out this product and get approvals for these unique developments. And so it's kind of helped us. We have a base of people who really support what we're doing. A lot of them have become investors. They're always there for feedback for us. They stay on our units. Like all of our renters so far have actually been from the community, but it is not closed to the community. Like anybody can join or stay in our spaces. So back to the ADU concept. So ADUs, in my opinion, are sort of like the Trojan horse for this like housing zoning revolution. They, for whatever reason, were able to sort of like slip into a lot of different zoning rules in all across the country. So in California now, where we have some of like the hardest, most expensive housing in the country, 20% of all of their new construction is now ADUs, or are now ADUs. So that now has also been spreading all across the West Coast, and then as of basically in the last 2 years, almost every municipality, Raleigh, Durham, Wake County even, all began allowing ADUs. And the rules and requirements keep getting easier and easier. So of course it's great if you already own the land, you don't have to buy it. You can tap into your own utilities. And then North Carolina right now they're trying to pass a law where unless you're in an HOA, municipalities cannot disallow you from building an ADU on your property as long as you have like sewer capacity, so septic or sewer capacity, which would unlock like 20 million potential new developments. So I think the ADU thing is actually way bigger than, it's very small, but it's this really big idea, and it's sort of been the Trojan horse into getting people to be like, okay, this is cool, we can do things differently. Cottage courts are sort of the next variation of that.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So ADU is auxiliary dwelling unit?
Yeah, accessory dwelling unit,
Accessory dwelling. And is there a size that goes with that or anything? Or
Yeah, good question. So the maximum size usually is around 800 square feet, which again, ironically, is like, some of them are 1,200. I think in Raleigh now it's actually 1,200, which again is like almost twice as big as like a standard starter home from the 1950s. So so accessory dwelling units, the rules generally, if you're not familiar, are they need to be smaller than half the size of your primary residence. They usually need to be behind your primary residence. unless you can build it like 100 feet off of the road or something, which means you have to have a lot of land. But for people with large plots, it's kind of cool because you basically just build another house wherever you want to. As I mentioned, you can tap into utilities. There are a lot of programs. In fact, Charlotte now has a forgivable loan program for up to $80,000, where if you just build an ADU in your backyard, they will forgive $10,000 of your loan every month for 8 years if you rent it at an affordable threshold. And affordable is like still pretty high because they use their, median rent. I think 80% is like workforce and 60% is affordable, and I think you might be able to rent up to 80% of that. So, a lot of cities are starting to do that. Cottage courts are sort of the next stage of the ADU thing. So essentially, cottage courts are, America's loved to do, the suburb subdivision where we split lots up, in that kind of cookie cutter fashion. Cottage courts are generally seen as sort of more like the European, all the homes are kind of clustered very close together. Generally, they're smaller, and in fact, usually cottage court rules like have all these they don't want you to build big houses. So there's a cap on the height. There's often a cap on the size, and then the the spacing between each unit can be up to like 4 feet or sometimes even like almost joined. Whereas, just across the street, if you're doing single-family subdivision zoning, you need 15-foot setbacks from each side lot, so it's 30 feet between homes. And then there are all these other requirements. It's the same plot of land with the same exact zoning, but you can just, if you do a cottage core model, you can get a lot more density and build more small homes. So
what
they
was
also,
the process to get them to change the regulations? Like,
yeah, well, good question. So,
did you have to provide?
yeah, well, so like personally, I'm actually not that involved in municipal politics or whatever. I just follow this stuff a lot, and we know from our own experiences, sort of watch these trends. I think cottage courts, like I know Raleigh launched that they were like the first in the Southeast to allow tiny house cottage courts. And the month after they announced that, we were like, okay, we're going to do this. And then we found out I don't think they really wanted anyone to do it. It was just kind of like a PR thing. And then they were like, well, okay, we have to do this. So we were kind of the guinea pig, and they were sort of making stuff up on the way. It actually made it a lot harder and probably be easier a second time. But the cool thing is, yeah, it's very much in this, I don't know if you're familiar with like YIMBY and NIMBY.
Yeah.
So yes, in my backyard, not in my backyard. A lot of the more like modern municipalities tend to like be yes in my backyard, and again, ADUs are like sort of it's the thing that they wanted to pioneer. Oh, more density, more, and again, like I understand perspectives on all sides there, but generally cottage courts is very like NIMBY-led thing or YIMBY-led thing. So there's like these organizations nationally that just push like what is our YIMBY agenda, and they were responsible for doing a lot of you can do like 6-unit apartment buildings that are walk up with one staircase. Like they're trying to basically lobby like more housing options into existence. Our next step, and we haven't announced this really publicly too much, but we are looking at, and I'll hand this off to Hardik in just a second, but we are looking at a site in Raleigh that is huge, that we plan to put under contract, and we've already had talks with governments and stuff like that, where we would like to attempt the largest for sale affordable housing project in the country. So you can go to one more. The idea for this, and this is actually just a village design we did for the government in Bhutan, but the idea is that we're going to, on a much larger scale, build a ton of housing, like 1,000 plus units, with homes starting at under $100,000 for sale. That's part of our goal. We want them to be sort of elevated living, so nicer than what you're used to, even though they will be smaller. With a lot of like central community co-living amenities. So this is very common in countries like Denmark and whatnot. This would be much like bigger, but they'll live in these co-living sort of facilities. They'll share kitchens. They'll often like switch off cooking for, different families. They'll rotate and they share resources and stuff. In this sense, we're thinking sort of much bigger with, you can go one more slide. And this might look like a little bit crazy sci-fi, but a lot of new apartment developments, actually, their standard lobbies are like very similar to this. So the idea is you have really great world-class co-living central amenities, like resort-style, like spa amenities, maybe even like meal plans, kitchens where you can actually get healthy food and whatnot. Co-working, co-living spaces, really good co-living spaces, maybe even like daycare and Montessori type schools. Centralized, as things move to robotics, you can get your laundry done centrally, get food delivered, and so on and so forth. Autonomous vehicles of transportation that could be shared by the community. So the larger the community, the more of these you can offer. And it's funny because I visit all these brand new apartment buildings, and their lobbies are like better than a lot of new hotels. They have really cool amenities, and nobody's like ever using them. And I know this myself actually. I went and stayed in an apartment building, and they sold me on the amenities, and then you just realize you never go because you're like busy or working or whatever. But at a much larger scale, people will use this, and we could also have members who don't live there come and access these facilities. So we want to build these all over the country, put a dent in the housing supply, hopefully in housing affordability and accessibility, and that's all. And so Hardick also has, these are just appendix from like our picture, but Hardick also has a very large site in Chatham County that we also could potentially pilot this on. And with that, I'll hand it off to Hardick.
What's the size of these nomad cities? Are they kind of like similar to the size of like the standard suburban subdivision?
Like 200 plus acres,
And how many units?
over 1,000 plus would be the goal, with apartments as well. So you could rent in the apartments, build equity towards the down payment of your first home. So like really cool goal would be, you get to buy your first starter home at potentially the smallest studio unit at $100,000 or whatever, with zero money down on an FHA loan. And then you can get access to this whole network and all these resources. So it'd be a serious upgrade in housing. And then our business goal would be to actually have better gross margins than other traditional builders. So if we can do that, we can be a very large.
Don't know. It might.
I wouldn't be interested in renting it, maybe, when you had kits or something, but you're talking about more cubic feet and the same square footage. What kind of insulation would be in the kits?
So we actually use 2x8 walls, which is twice the size of your standard wall, and then we fully insulate it. We spray foam in, but you could do blow in or whatever. So again, the idea is they're small, but everything is an upgrade. The windows, the insulation, the quality, their heated floors, so it's smaller, but it's elevated.
What kind of foundations do you use?
We have options for slab, crawl space. We also have this stilted option, which is like elevated with cantilever deck, and we have rooftop deck options. So we have variations. We're actually building in the portal. You can like design your own node. We call them nodes, node on our network, and then you can unlock it, get access to all know-how, media, like us, what we did, all the different floor plans, materials lists, hosting materials lists, and so on and so forth, all in like the portal.
What's the average price of 550 square foot tiny house?
The price per square foot. So the price per square foot is high. I don't know off the top.
Not per square foot, just the whole thing, 550.
Yeah, well, we're getting. We have to test these, but we're getting like our smaller units are, with the GC fee, significantly under $100,000. The smaller units. So the other ones are about twice the size. We're testing this in the field, but like I just came back from Romania, and we were saving like you know, almost 50% on the windows, which are the most expensive part. And then, you know, with framing kits, we're saving 30% on the framing. And so we're slowly getting those costs down. The first one was twice, not twice, but 50% more expensive than what we're building at now. So the goal is to continue to get that down. And then at scale, we can at least get those costs down another 15%.
Yeah, I mean, we're building a village on rock quarry. Some of the visuals that he showed on the presentation, the 2 units that we've already built with a rooftop deck, those units, I mean, when we put the pro forma together, we were expecting those units to be built for around 220-ish, for a 600 square feet home, right? And I think we value engineered the product, and I'm a developer. I do developments across North Carolina and do a lot of work overseas. So I think how do you know, with the inflation and with COVID, what that did was, you know, the construction material cost as well as the labor cost just went through the roof. And, you know, we had to figure out this, and interest rates are through the roof when you're borrowing money from the bank to do development, right? So we had to value engineer the project without compromising the quality of the build. And we started establishing relationships with, you know, factories overseas, because we had to think out of the box, right? I mean, we were quoted by vendors here on glass, let's say $36,000 per unit on the windows and the doors.
We were still ordering from overseas.
Yeah.
Assembling and then marketing.
And when we compared this with factories overseas with exact same quality, no compromise on the quality at all, taking into effect the tariff impact that has been brought into place, because tariffs are a moving goalpost right now. Every day there's new tariffs, either they are taken away or they are being introduced. But even with those tariff shocks, we were able to value engineer our price, and, you know, we brought the cost down on our windows by 50% by buying it from overseas, right? So Zach, as he said, he was in Romania. I couldn't go, but he went with another partner of ours here who's from Romania, lives here in Raleigh. He's a broker, and we're gonna start buying doors and windows from overseas, right? So the thing is, you need to think out of the box when you are in a unique environmental situation that we are in, geopolitical, inflation, interest rates. You have to start thinking out of the box, keeping affordability at the forefront. Because if you're going to build this for $500,000, then the affordable component, you know, of what we are trying to achieve here is just blown away.
And the 220, just to be clear, was for 2 units, because it was our Echo model. So it's 2 units at 220, that was our initial pro forma, and I think we're down to like closer to 150 now,
Yeah,
with a GC fee added on, like, so significantly lower.
Can you explain a little bit about, like, flat roofs and dealing with?
So we just use TPO roofing. It's like black rubber membrane. It's a little more expensive than the white rubber membrane, but it's like looks better. But the flat roofs allow us to also do like the rooftop decks, solar. We put solar on one of ours, and eventually stack them, which we'll do. It's actually not too expensive. It's a small area, and you know, weighing the costs with like shingle roofing on a pitched roof and sort of some of the extra costs there are it's not too much more. There is of course like a slight slope. There has to be, but they're done with trusses, so they manufacture those too and just snap them on and you're done.
Here in Chatham County, I did the numbers so well back to build an individual house, not regarding the size. The fees and permits was $10,000 before I broke ground.
Oh yeah.
How do you deal with that on a larger scale?
Well, it was hard. I mean, we were like $200,000 in tap fees, and this is like before anything's like tap fees, permits. I think it was like $7,000 per unit, and then the tap fees were $50,000, and we sort of had everything already lined up, so a lot of people don't in terms of like infrastructure. So that's another really big cost that you can't really, I mean, it's just like the cost of doing business. And all of those numbers are going way up along with inflation too.
But the politicians keep calling affordable housing, and yet you go stop with a $10,000 permitting system.
Yeah.
Before you buy the first brick.
Yeah, so it's funny, the city of Raleigh gave a piece of land away for $1 in a really good location downtown to a development company that won. We had actually applied, So they won, and they didn't even pursue it, because once they got all the requirements back and the costs, they just quit. And so we did it, no tax credits, no assistance, other than like, oh, we like what you guys are doing, like we'll try to help get this paper through. But I mean, yeah, it's
Welcome to Ahan Dream.
municipal costs are a big burden, and I don't really know what to do about that. But
I didn't use the volume.
No, you didn't? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm just going to run a short presentation about who I am, what I do. Of course, you know, Zach and I, we both are business partners. Just to give you a little bit of context, you know, I was born and raised in India, moved to the United States in 2003. I'm a living example of American dream. Came with $1,000 in my pocket, you know, for my higher education in the United States. You know, did my master's in biomedical engineering from Jersey, and then went to Penn State, did my applied statistics, and became a serial entrepreneur about 12, 13 years ago. Decided to go on my own, and me and my family, we are super grateful for the opportunity that, you know, the country gave us, and, you know, we always try to find opportunities to give back to the community. So majority of the businesses that I'm involved with has a significant social impact component associated with it. That's why we went into the Look Salon Suites business model, where we wanted to enable micro entrepreneurs, because, you know, United States gave me and my country the opportunity to thrive, and this was our way of giving back to the community.
Welcome to Ahan Dream, empowering dreams, building legacies. Every dream has a beginning. For Ahan Dream, it began with a family and a vision rooted not just in wealth, but in purpose. The name Ahan comes from Sanskrit, meaning dawn, a new beginning, the first ray of light. It's more than a word. It's a promise, a spark of hope, courage, and ambition. That spark began with our founder, Hardik Raval, and his wife, Ashta Raval, a global visionary who transitioned from leading in technology to pioneering purpose-driven real estate. From writing code to drawing property lines. From startups to strategic land investments. The name Ahan is deeply personal. A for his wife. A for his daughter. HA for himself. N for his son. A symbol of love, unity, and legacy. Ahan Dream is a purpose-driven real estate development and investment company. We help tech leaders, busy professionals, and global investors build generational wealth through commercial real estate, purposeful projects, and strategic diversification. And to us, dream is not just a word. It's our formula. D stands for diversify your portfolio, R for reinvest your returns, E for earn passive income, A for appreciate assets over time, M for multiply generational wealth. We believe real estate isn't out of reach. It's a roadmap, a system, a legacy vehicle. Fresh starts and bold ambitions define our journey. We develop raw land, commercial, and residential projects in some of the most promising US markets, from multifamily and tiny homes to self-storage, mobile home parks, assisted living, and franchise investments in beauty and wellness. It's real estate for the future, powered by vision, backed by integrity. Our work includes land development projects like Towns at Laurel Ridge with 82 townhomes, Stanfield with 30 single-family homes, and Butterfield with 67 homes. Ongoing projects include Serenity Estates in Siler City, North Carolina, spanning 98.5 acres with 147 single-family homes and 67 townhomes. Also, Willow Haven, a planned development in Bolivia, North Carolina, with an estimated 250 to 270 homes. We also lead unique commercial and residential ventures like Nomad Village in Raleigh. What began as 2 tiny homes has grown into a lifestyle community, with Phase 2 adding 20 more homes, a community centre, and a creative village. Phase 3 will bring the final 8 homes to life. Another bold transformation is the Look Salon Suites in Apex, North Carolina, an 8,500 square foot upscale salon space repurposed from a car wash, designed for beauty professionals in a growing, high-traffic area. Our multifamily acquisitions include a 12-unit property in Greenville, North Carolina, and an 11-unit property in historic downtown Washington, North Carolina, chosen for passive income, appreciation, and strategic growth in healthcare and college-driven areas. These projects reflect our commitment to thoughtful growth, sustainable cash flow, and building a lasting legacy. Under the leadership of Hardik Roval, our Han Dream manages over $30 million in assets, with more than 400 acres under development in North Carolina. From acquisition to successful exits, we don't just build structures. We build opportunities. We build freedom. We also power and partner with forward-thinking ventures, Builders for sustainable urban spaces from rezoning to sale, Nomad Development Inc. for mobile, eco-friendly housing, the Look Salon Suites, now growing nationwide, with 3 corporate locations and 6 franchise units across North Carolina, Florida, and New Jersey, and the Sixth Sense, a fine dining restaurant concept that marries tradition and modern elegance. Beyond building businesses, Hardik Roval builds knowledge. He shares stages with national real estate leaders managing over 175,000 multifamily doors. He teaches AI and digital strategy at Central Carolina Community College. And he works with innovators like BotBuilt, using robotics to reshape housing and construction. For Hardik, wealth isn't what you earn. It's what you build, what you protect, and what you leave behind. Because with our Han Dream, you get more than investments. You get trust. You get strategy. You get passive income. And most importantly, you get a partner who walks the journey with you. To the dreamers, the builders, the believers, your dream is valid. The journey starts now, with the first ray of light, with our Han Dream.
So that's just a little bit about what I do. So I moved to North Carolina back in '07. Used to work for GlaxoSmithKline as a statistician in healthcare industry, working on clinical trials, and pivoted into real estate, several years ago. I really enjoy real estate. I just came back from Harvard. I just completed my real estate management program from Harvard last week, and it was an impeccable experience, working with 78 different people from different parts of the world, getting a completely different perspective on, what life is all about, and how real estate can be a game changer. So, worked with a professor there. You guys can look him up, Professor David Smith. He is the pioneer of affordable housing. And I have a meeting set up with him to discuss about how we could, implement some of the affordable housing strategies here, using the tiny home program that we are, we want to take this global, and how can we align with the government and the local jurisdictions and make sure that we can scale this and provide affordability to the people for the starter homes, people who, because currently we all know affordability is a huge challenge. People who graduate, people who are buying their first homes, they just can't afford to buy a house, right? So how can we make a difference by creating a beautiful product that we already have, and how do we align those with the government, incentives to make sure that we can provide this product as an affordable product for people, but yet an incredible product that we have built. So,
and that professor was, you mentioned him, but he's big on, created the tax credit.
He works, you guys can look him up. He's extremely passionate about affordable housing, right? He's built policies around it on federal level. He works overseas. So when I spoke to him about Nomad and the tiny home concept, he just welcomed, reach out to me and we'll figure out what's the best way.
Yeah, we don't know anything about tax credits. It'd be
Yeah.
great.
Because there are, I'm
we've
sure
never
you guys
touched
are
those.
probably familiar with low-income housing tax credit that, the counties normally offer to developers. And there are different ways that counties, incentivize developers to build affordable housing projects. So one is a low-income housing tax credit. Another is the TIC, which is tax incremental credit, right? So there are different programs that are being run, and to navigate through what's available to you as a developer is always a challenge because it's an ocean. And unless you know what each of these tax credits means and how they work, it's very difficult. And that's why, a lot of developers just cannot understand or wrap their head around how to work with the jurisdictions to build affordable housing projects. But I think there are a lot of incentives out there, and we are trying to see how we could leverage those incentives to bring affordable component, and provide this product at an affordable price point to people who are looking for their first starter homes or build communities around it,
And our goal is to figure that out before tax credits. So if we can do that,
Yeah.
and then bring prices down even further, just using existing programs, it'd be very, very cool. So you want to talk about your 400 acres?
Yeah, so I'm pretty involved in Chatham County. I bought my first, 235 acres across from Siler City Municipal Airport 5 years ago or 4 years ago, before even Toyota had announced the battery plant, or Wolfspeed was there, or VinFast came over. As soon as I signed the contract, within a week, Toyota announced the battery plant. So, and I had no knowledge of that, so I went ahead and closed on that parcel immediately because, I didn't want the seller to change their mind. But I continued buying more land in Siler City. One of the projects that you guys saw in the presentation, which is called Serenity Estates. So I was the first developer in Siler City. Before even Toyota had announced the battery plant, I had proactively started converting the agricultural zoning into a full-blown residential project, which is 214 homes, single-family homes and townhomes. But back then, I used to talk to a lot of these national builders that, hey, you guys have to come to Siler City, because there is an amazing opportunity that's gonna come here. And they're like, yeah, we hear what you're saying, but we're not ready, right? So back then they were not as receptive, but the moment Toyota announced the battery plant, and then Wolfspeed announced the chip plant, and then slowly, people started realizing that, yeah, this is finally gonna go. Now, we know what we're going through right now. With Wolfspeed, went through the pre-foreclosure or pre-Chapter 11 bankruptcy filing, and I think they're out of that. But it seems Toyota is going at it as if there is no tomorrow. So I continued buying more land and started engaging with the local jurisdiction, and now we are going to go ahead and build this first project, which is Serenity Estates. And I'm the first guy who is close to the entitlement. We have a moratorium issue going on with the DEQ. There is special order by consent. So going through all of these hurdles require a lot of patience, requires a lot of capital. Navigating through the local jurisdictions was a big challenge. But I think we are getting closer to the finish line. From where we were 3 years ago, where all of a sudden they put a pause on everything. You can't do anything because you don't have water and sewer. So infrastructure is a massive problem, and I love working in local secondary, tertiary markets, smaller towns, because it feels like a community when you are working in smaller towns. You become a part of the community when you work with people. Because I live in Apex. I don't live far from here. But when I came here, I was an outsider in terms of coming to Siler City during the first development project, right? But what I've seen is people have admired me as a part of the whole community, and we have figured out how to navigate through this hurdle of governmental challenges and the infrastructure challenges. And there are a couple of stakeholders that we are working very closely with Kirk Bradley and, Tim Morris, I mean, some of these guys who are way more vested than I am in the county. But these guys have put together a strategic agenda to work with the government, make sure the utility needs are served. Now we have Dry River that came over from Sanford, took over the Siler City municipality. And again, there is, we know that, some people like it, some people don't like it, some people like the growth, some people don't like the growth. But how do you navigate through this whole environment that we're in and still make sure that the projects that are on stake, with a massive, chip manufacturing plant here, or Toyota building the world's largest battery plant here, how do we provide housing for the people who are going to work at these factories in the future at an affordable price, right? So that's, I think, the biggest and the most challenging component working through this inflationary, high interest rate environment is that we are all evolving, right? We are all evolving, we're all trying to figure out how do we optimize projects, how do we make sure that at the end of the day, people are able to get an affordable house, a starter, because people who work at these factories, they're going to make somewhere between $50,000 to $80,000 on an average, right? So how do they afford to buy a $300,000 to a $400,000 home? And that's where we are working with people to see what kind of incentives we can align and bring affordability as a part of it.
Right.
Does anyone here live in Siler City? It's like 20 minutes from here.
You live in Siler City?
Yes,
Okay.
I used to work for Wolf.
Oh, wow.
Oh, you used to work for Wall Street?
Yeah.
Okay.
So how have things
So we'd
changed?
love to hear your
Yeah.
perspective.
Yeah. Have you noticed a massive influx since these plans have been announced, or?
Well, I mean, I think I see housing prices going down because, the growth hasn't been there.
Yep.
From high.
Yeah.
It definitely got zoomed up.
Yeah.
Well, and nationally, everywhere, prices are slowly coming down, but interest rates are, the mortgages still.
Once you cross 421 with more Randolph County,
Mhm.
prices drop.
Yeah.
We have property about 9 miles inside of that zone. We bought it 900 acres, 80, we sold it 65 a few years ago. I got resold it 3 months to 94.
Wow.
Yeah, I think,
And so like somebody said earlier, it's depending on where you live.
yeah. And I think the reality is now finally hitting to people where, we were in that weird time zone post-COVID where everything just started skyrocketing because a lot of people from Northeast started moving to North Carolina and West Coast started moving to North Carolina, and people thought we could charge exorbitant amount of money per square foot, right? But finally the pricing have started